Welcome back to Crash Command Games. Thanks for checking us out again. This time, we're going to be looking at Armory deck Kayo. I wanted to talk about, as a part of a series I've been doing and working on over the past week, an introduction for new players. How do you get into the game? It used to be a little bit more difficult. There was more of a non-guided method, right? It was pretty unfocused, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. It was bad. To get into this game was just difficult. The blitz decks didn't help you very much, and in the early stages, you may have picked up a living legend blitz deck, which wouldn't be legal, so you'd be practicing a hero you weren't familiar with, and then you would find out, oh, I just can't use them anyway, and then you'd feel like you wasted. It's not good. Okay, that is just a flat-out criticism I have for LSS. The early stages of onboarding, pretty awful. But we made it through first edition. We made it through unlimited. We made it through the blitz decks. We made it through all of this and have arrived to a product that has inspired me enough to say, I can tell players this is a good way to enter the game. Okay, that is these classic constructed Armory decks, starting with Armory deck Kayo. This was the first one released. That's how much they should cost right there. Okay, if you're paying more than that, and it's maybe 10, maybe even 15% more. That's about the cost of shipping anyway. Just pick it up from your local game store, support them. They were nice enough to get this product for you. Just live the namesake of play the game in the flesh and blood, okay? So let's get on to it. We are going to take a look at what's in this. I have an Azalea Armory deck. That's going to be another episode. And then the Bolton deck as well. Unfortunately, I already opened up the Bolton deck. I wanted to have some fun with it. He's right here. There's not going to be an unboxing for the Bolton. There's not going to be an unboxing for the Bolton episode. But what are you going to do, right? I could buy another product, but money's money. It's tight sometimes, as I talk about in these episodes, in the previous episode, and the response video that led to this. If you haven't seen that response video, go ahead and check it out and see why I think it's easier to get into this game than that individual VV theory had shown it to be, and why I think those are kind of flawed reasons why you shouldn't try to get into a game. I know that may not have been the intention, but man, the tone comes across, even though he says it doesn't. So we're just going to continue opening this right here. I don't know why I'm being gentle. I have my collector version of this in a closet somewhere. So much like the Azalea Armory deck, much like the Bolton deck, you're going to get this pretty minimal packaging, and I like that. I personally like that they're not being super wasteful with the packaging, okay? You just slide this out. It kind of sucks, but you have to hold the deck still in packaging somewhere. So that's all you're going to get, okay? Nothing crazy. None of those, none of the kind of Pokemon start a game kind of deck. Now that's a little disappointing until we get into this. Now I've opened up a few of these already, so I kind of know what's in these, but let's go ahead and continue for you, okay? Tiny Knife makes an appearance again. Tiny Knife getting a lot of work in lately. Like that. So just like the other episode, we're just going to kind of go over what we see here. Okay. Here we have Kayo Armed and Dangerous. All right. I'm going to freeze frame right there for a second so you can read this card if you don't know what it is. If not, go ahead and pull it up on any other browser or page. I can't really read it from my screen because of how small that the feed is, or up here. So I'm going to go off of memory and see how right I am. You can only have a single one-handed weapon, as evident by poor little Kayo's, well, I say little, dude's pretty huge nowadays, missing arm. You can only have one-handed weapon. Attack action cards you own that aren't on the chain, which means you can't control them, get +1 power. So that means like things like if you discard them, if they're revealed off the top of your deck, if they go to your banish zone, if they're revealed from your hand, if they're anywhere but the combat chain, they get +1 power. And then if you would discard a card with 6 or more power, you create a might token. Now what a might is, might be explained here in a second. So far we have Kayo. Let me read and make sure I got that right. You have one weapon zone, a little bit different than what I said. Attack action cards, you don't get +1 while they're in any other zone of the combat chain. A little different from what I said, but functionally the same. And then the first time you discard a card with 6 or more power during each of your action phases, create a might token. So it can't happen on your opponent's turn. Do note for the new players who are going to be picking this up and maybe exploring this game, you can't do that on when it says your action phase. It can only happen on your turn. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, so we're gonna get back down to Kayo. We're gonna put the star right there. Hopefully it focuses soon. There it goes. Okay. Next up, we have his weapon, the Mandible Claw. There was some like wrinkly brain takes for those of you who are a little bit more intermediary. That they were trying to get rid of the Mandible Claws because every brute's using them, so they overtuned KO. That was the conspiracy for a while, but he seems to have settled into the meta quite nicely. Now, earlier when I said, oh, it's kind of a bummer there's not like this intro game or like a guided game or anything like that, that's because we have this QR code. Some people refer to these as the herpes of the marketing. So I like these, but I could see a world in which they might not be the best. And as I just said earlier, we are going to get what a might token is. It's at the start of your turn, destroy this. Then your next attack this turn gets +1. Huge distinction there for new players, okay? At the start of your turn. If you've listened to the previous cast of Commotions and you've been a fan of this channel for a while, or if you want to go back and learn how to play the game very well, go ahead and check out Cast of Commotion. Check out the Patreon, all that stuff too. Like, subscribe, comment, everything, right? Tell me if this is the deck you're going to be playing with. Is it Azalea? Is it Bolton? Are you even interested in these decks? Let me know. I really do want to know. But the distinction I was trying to get at was that at the start of your turn, nobody gets priority. You can't respond to this. Nobody can mess with you. This just happens, okay? You get some might tokens. You also get this agility token, which is at the start of your turn, destroy this, then your next attack gets go again. So already off the bat, the deck is kind of telling you that it wants you to get some agility, it wants you to get some might tokens, it wants you to start pumping and really getting your attacks just a little stronger than they were on the base card. That's pretty much KO's whole theme is, it's interesting to me because I do need to make another episode of the podcast, and I have been talking about what? I have been talking about introducing the idea of Fab 3.0 because we've up until now been in what we call Fab 2.0. And the idea behind that is that we're shifting into a new game space design. I believe KO possibly represents the tricklings of that starting to show up. I think Part the Mistveil is really where that solidifies. More on that later in Cast of Commotion, not in this video. So next we have Savage Beatdown. This is kind of a hard card to play, but it is quite awesome. Costs 3, red pitch, 6 power, 3 defense. Overall, pretty standard stats, nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and get this a little bit closer. Focus. It does not want to focus on that close-up. So we'll go ahead and put it, if it's trouble, we'll go ahead and put something up. But it's play only if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power this turn. As an additional cost to playing this card, you must discard a card. And then if the discarded card has 6 or more power, this gets 6 plus power, plus 6 power. So a lot of the times you're coming in for 12 plus with this card. Sometimes a little bit more if you have a big turn, you know? So it looks like we got 3 of those. I don't like having 3 of these. In the Azalea deck we saw they only get 1 red in the ledger. Again, that is LSS admitting a mistake. But Savage Beatdown, there's 3 of. Yeah, most of the time you're just going to be blocking with this card. If you have an opportunity to set up for this card, do it. But otherwise, for you new players, that is a hard to play card with a big payoff, big risk, big reward. It can still defend for 3. Okay. Next, we're looking at this card, Strength Rules All. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There you go. This is 2 for 6. Red pitch, 2 cost, 6 power, 3 defense. Overall, that is a super solid card. Again, it's one of the Majestics included in this box. When this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up. Then banish an attack action card in their arsenal with power less than the damage dealt this way. Pretty effective against the weaker heroes, Rune Blades, ninjas, so even rangers could be hurt by this if they choose not to block. So definitely a decent card. We're starting to see a lot of exploration space around the Command and Conquer style gameplay. wreak havoc, strength rules, all these kind of things are starting to pop up more and more. And obviously, these keep driving up. When you introduce a card like this, LSS, you're just making Command and Conquer more expensive. Some new players don't like that. Some players like that. I don't know if you realize that's what you're doing. I'm sure you do on some level, because these are good, but Command and Conquer is still better.
Stonks, bitch!
Okay. I'm not asking you to power creep that card. That card is disgusting as it is. It's just, I'm not an advocate for banning anybody who, so this one is one of the foil cards. And that is just an amazing looking foil. I really do like that. Makes all of the 4-round pop quite well. Okay. Yeah, I'm not an advocate for banning, but that card is strong. Bare Fangs is another card. Let's see if we can get it to focus this time. That's about where it's going to have to be. I'm familiar with this card. It's got no defense. Cost 2, red pitch, 6 attack. When this attacks, you draw a card and discard a card. If the card has 6 or more power, which Kayo will pretty much guarantee it is, this gets +2 power. Huge value. If your turn is just block with 2 cards, Bare Fangs, your turn is probably fairly effective. Okay, the deck is going to come with 3 of those. Here's an old staple from Monarch, still in the rarity slot. 0 block again. You're going to notice a lot of the theme with KO becomes trying to balance which cards I'm going to attack with and trading damage for even more damage. He kind of smartens you up to the turn cycle, which is a theory I believe I go over in a few of my podcasts. So this is 0 defense, 2 cost, red, 6 attack. When this attacks, draw a card and discard a card. If the card has 6 or more power, this gains Dominate. And then it has a secondary ability of, if this isn't blocked by two or more non-equipment cards, it gets Go Again. Pretty reliably, it will be getting Go Again. You're going to start to see a theme here with the KO deck. A lot of these cards are going to say get Go Again by discarding a card with 6 or more power, such as Wild Ride. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a card at random, which is what the other cards say as well. I know I missed that, but I know you guys can read, and I know you guys, when you see these cards, you'll read it as well. That's my bad. I'll try to get better about that. So when this attacks, draw a card and discard a card at random, and if it has 6 or more power, this gets Go Again. Again, you're going to see this common theme: 0 defense, 6 power, 2 cost, red pitch. All very good cards. You have this card Clash with Agility. I have a love-hate with these, but they're good. Okay, they block for 3, they attack for 6. They cost 2, I believe. And it says when this defends clash with the attacking hero. Clash is a mechanic introduced in heavy hitters. It just means reveal the top of your decks, and whoever has the higher power card wins. Okay, and if you win, you get an agility token, which is this guy over here that gives your attacks Go Again. So I kind of don't like that it's kind of set to be a defensive card, but it also has an attack, so it's useful in some scenarios. It's fine. Here's one of those cards I was talking about that they're trying to replace Command and Conquer with, Wreak Havoc. It says defense reactions can't be played this chain link, and then when this hits a hero, you may turn a card in their arsenal face up and banish a defense reaction in their arsenal this way. That's going to be more and more interesting. A lot of people don't really seem to think that this is a very good card. Again, it blocks for 2, attacks for 6, costs 2. I believe this has a lot of application in decks like Arachne and possibly a few other heroes as well. It's just that people are just not reading the word banish, and that could become super relevant in the future. Even new could like that. Okay. We have Humble. This card is incredible. It's just incredible. When it hits a hero, they lose all hero abilities until the end of turn. 6 attack, 2 defense, 2 cost. Really simple text, really simple ability to understand. It just turns off their this hero box right here becomes blank. That's what happens if you get humbled. I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but at the same time, it gets around some Dominate from the Azalea decks. It gets around some Overpower, things like that. And it's got 6 power, so it's this is a decent include. For a while, I was actually playing this in Levia. I didn't hate the decision because at the time I was playing against a lot of Guardians in my area. It's an okay card. Rally the Rearguard. It's another callback from Monarch. It's a 6 power, 2 defense, 2 cost, red. Again, like I said, that's going to be a very common theme in this deck. But it has an ability that says once per turn instant. And that's going to be confusing to some players, but what it means is just anytime you can play an instant, which is anytime you get priority, which is anytime your opponent does anything or anytime you do something, you can play this. And it says discard a card. This gets +3 defense. And then right after that, it says activate this ability only while this is defending. So it has that restriction on it, but you can play it as an instant. So discard a card. This gets +3. Activate the ability only while this is defending. Okay. Pretty versatile defense card. Not too bad. And here we get into the good part about Kayo. Okay. This is a Bare Fangs yellow. You'll notice it has 5 base attack. Now, if you've noticed, all of these cards, most of them, like to revolve around cards with 6+ attack. Discard a card with 6+ attack, do something. If this has 6+ attack, whatever, right? Even the Mandible Claws say if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power, they get go again. Okay, so why do we have that 5? Well, because Kayo's second ability that gives any card +1 power as long as it's not on the chain. So you typically pitch the yellows. But again, if you discard it for any cost or anything, if you do anything that reveals it, it has 5 +1 power as long as it's not on the chain. So this will effectively have 6 power everywhere else. So if it discards to another Bare Fangs, you're good to go. That's the only yellow card in the deck. I believe there should be some upgrades to that yellow slot, but we'll talk about that in the upgrade section. Here you have Assault and Battery. It's Beat Chest, which is a mechanic where you can choose to discard a card with 6 or more power. If you do, create an agility token. That's rock solid. 5 power, so effectively 6 power when it's discarded or whatever. 3 defense, cost 3 to play, standard card. It belongs in the deck. Pound Town is the same thing with Beat Chest, but for a might token. 5 attack, 3 defense, blue pitch. Very important for this deck. Wreck-A-Romp itself, the OG. Blue pitch, 3 defense, 6 attack. 2 plus a discard as the cost. You won't be playing this card too often. You will in a pinch if you have to, but realistically, this is just fuel for the deck in many different ways. And then this is the card that is just insane. Okay, it costs 1, has 5 attack, 3 defense. It's a blue pitch, and it says play this only if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power. But the point is, it's a 3 block blue pitch that will have 6 power because of KO. And in the worst of scenarios, it costs 1 or less because of a few other things. That's one of the cards that comes in foil, it looks like. There it is. Nice. Then we have Smash Instinct. Again, brutes at their core become pretty set in their patterns, as wild as they're supposed to be. Blue pitch, 3 block, 5 attack. Shocker, it's in the deck, right? It has an ability called Intimidate, which is just target hero banishes face down a random card from their hand at the beginning of the end phase, return it to its owner's hand. Don't make the mistake that me and my friends made when we first played that. You get to look at that card that's banished. You know, I thought it was like you banish it face down and you don't get to look at it, but you do. The player who banishes it gets to see what they banished. It's just a standard card. It's very good, very keepable. Reincarnate, I'm not the biggest fan of, but it has its place. 3 block, 5 attack, blue pitch, and then when this is discarded at random, you put it on the bottom of your deck, so it kind of stops the fatigue plan from completely ruining your day. Riled Up, if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power, this gets +1. Again, it's 5 power, 3 block, blue. Very, very predictable. Agile Windup has a 2 block, but it has an additional ability that we care about. It says instant. Again, if you see that word instant, unless it tells you otherwise in the ability, like Rally the Rearguard, go ahead and assume you can play this anytime you get priority, which is after every time somebody plays a card or any action is taken. Anytime anything is done, you get priority after that if priority has been passed. So, instant. Discard this, create an agility token. Very simple ability. You'll pitch it. You most of the time will either discard it or use its instant ability, right? Very simple. I'm not a big fan of Mighty Windup. Instant discard this, create a might token. Yeah, you create 2 might tokens with KO's third ability, which is whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power, create a might token. But it's just not my favorite. I feel like it can be used. That slot can be used in a different way. Here we have Battlefront Bastion, versatile defense card that has 5 attack, blue pitch. When this defends alone, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt. So most of the time it'll effectively block for 3, but it could also block Kodachis out pretty well, and other weird weapons that attack multiple times a turn. Here you have Knucklehead. You will almost never use the ability, which is destroy this, roll a dice until the end of your turn. Your base intellect is the number rolled. You typically won't use that, but it is temper 2 on a head, which is pretty good. Beaten Trackers, when you discard a card at random with 6 or more power, you may destroy this to get an action point. Obviously, you want to block with it first since it has 1 block Battle Worn. And then we get across to the meat and potatoes here. This is the reason most people buy these decks, I'm not going to lie to you. We'll do High Tanner first and save the best for last. Whenever you discard a card at random with 6 or more power, destroy this. If you do, create 2 might tokens. Battle Worn 1. That is a respectable arms piece. There's nothing wrong with that arms piece. I encourage a lot of people to use that. Obviously, there's better pieces later, like the Apex Bonebreaker, for your upgrade path, but that is a very respectable piece. And then we get to the star of the show, the Savage Sash. Okay. It's got 2 temper, which means it can block and then still use its ability, and in a desperation, play a block again. And it says, action, destroy this. Attack action cards with 6 or more power cost 1 less to play this turn. Go again. I don't think I've seen that card cracked, aside from an Icelander mishap in Living Legend. That didn't result in 24 plus damage. It just makes everything cheap. You get wild rides for 1, so a blue pitch can feed 3 wild rides if you have it all set up properly. It's just insane. So this is the KO deck. This swept an Armory the first time these came out a few months ago. Of course, we all adapted to it and continued playing. There's nothing wrong with picking this deck up and just jumping into your Armory. I need to set the expectation now, though, that we're into the video and we've gone over the deck, like I will in every single one of these episodes. You will not win the same way that, for example, with the Azalea Precon deck on this last Armory day, I beat a $1,000 deck with the Precon Azalea. Now, that took both luck and skill. You probably aren't there if this is the target video for you. Or if you're an intermediate player, you may win a little bit more with this deck. Once you're advanced, you could probably make this deck work most of the time. Like, once you really get the reps in, you've played hundreds of games on this deck. Not even hundreds. I would say like up to 50 to 100 games on this deck. You'll get the idea, and you'll get more experienced with your meta and your matchups. So for $40 is what this costs. You're in the game. Okay. You can show up to your local Armory. You're going to get beat up a bit, but as you continue to learn, make sure to ask the questions. How did I lose? What did I do? Did you see anything I did wrong? Develop yourself as a player, like all of my podcasts will tell you to do. Get good. Okay. And then decide if the Brute deck is for you. If you like the Brute style, awesome. If not, you spent $40, try Bolton, try Azalea. By the time you're done trying all these, it'll take months of time. And if you're liking the game enough to try other decks, you're a flesh and blood player. You will find the hero for you, and you will definitely be able to get into this game for much cheaper than is listed on the opinion piece I had put up. Okay. So if you like the Brute deck, stick with the Brute deck, and we're going to go over the upgrade path for you right here. So right now, you're $40 in. Okay, so here we are on TCG Player. We now have the knowledge that we spent about $40 plus tax or whatever, or shipping, whatever you needed. You spent $40 so far on your deck. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and compare that and contrast to like what we think are necessary staples for this deck. I'm going to go off of my game knowledge. I'm not going to look up any of the top decks, because if you are a new player, again, I'm going to reiterate many things on all of these episodes. There is nothing wrong with net decking, but you have to understand that pro player that won that big event that you're net decking off of built that deck a very specific way based on their testing, their skill, their play style, their understanding of the meta. Okay. If you do not have all of those things, that deck will feel awkward to you. It may feel fine, right? But you might not have the best ability with that version of the deck. I always suggest get good at deck building. Okay. But I realize that not everybody has that time. So You can just look at the top deck and kind of get some ideas from it, but you will get discouraged, like that other video I had pointed out in the opinion piece concerning new players. Okay, that other video. That you will just see those expensive decks, and much like the person in that video that I talk about, you may just say, "Oh, I won't even try this because I don't have that much money right now at this exact time." I want to teach you that if you like this game and you and your friends are getting into this game and you're having a blast, over time, like every other hobby, Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Warhammer 40,000, video games, everything you do with friends, over time you will invest in. That is going to be the same with Flesh and Blood. So if you buy this Armory deck and you play for a month or so and you're like, I kind of love KO, continue forward with me here. Okay. Otherwise, check out the Azalea and the Bolton versions of this. Be cool if you watch the whole video to keep my retention up. Just saying. Okay, so I do already know right off the bat. I don't even think that's how you spell that. Okay. Right off the bat, we're going to find out what the average price is for these cards. Looks like there's a good supply of these cards for around $5 in white border. And a good supply of these cards in black border, if you want that, for roughly $7, we'll say. Okay. So as a new player, you shouldn't be shy about picking up white border. There's nothing wrong with it. I actually kind of prefer the look. It looks really clean in person. I just have the black border, and I didn't have a lot of access to history pack in my area, so I kind of don't have a lot of the white border stuff, but a very, very good amount of these cards are available for $5. They're a little bit inflated as of recently because KO has been showing up a little bit more in the higher level events. As you can see here, they've been climbing very steadily from 3, 4 to 5. We're getting there. Okay. So I'm just going to build out this deck and we're just going to add it all up at the end. Personally, I think none of these offer free shipping, so that's kind of annoying. But I like to get if I can get a whole playset from a store, I will. Okay. So we'll just say Blood Rush Bellows is the first one. Okay. So after the Blood Rush Bellows, that is a card that we can just go over real quick. It says an additional cost to play it. You discard a random card. Your brute attacks all get +2. And then if it has 6 or more power, you draw 2 cards and it gets go again. KO will almost always guarantee that this hits. The thing is, you don't want to have too many non-attacks or instants or something in your deck because this has to be able to discard a non-attack. An attack action with 6 or more power. So just be mindful of that. Don't be trying to load your deck with non-attacks, okay? Next, we'll take a look at some other cards that I think fit this deck very well and I'm sure are fine. Because like I said, I'm just trying to give you an upgrade path. Yeah, this card is from Welcome to Wraith. Again, the cheapest versions of it are going to be, we need red. So it's just going to be these 3 right here. 10 cents. For some reason, the black border one is cheaper, it looks like. And it has a set. We're not going to worry about this too much. We're just going to throw the first set in there. This card is, as an additional cost, discard a card. If it has 6 or more power, draw a card. If you have an agility token, okay, and you give that go again, it's insane value. Insane value on Savage Feast. I believe that will take you a very far way. Thinking about other things you might want. This card right here, again, for some reason, the black border one is cheaper. You don't need a full play set of this. Okay. You don't need a full play set of this. We can just pick up one of these, and we're just going to go with this first one. Okay, reputable seller, cheap and easy. The shipping is annoying, but you only need one of these. Like I said, you don't want to load your deck with a bunch of non-attacks, but one of these can win a game. Okay. From there, we'll take a look at another card. Another one of include. Draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, the next brute attack action card you play this turn gets +X, where X is its base power, basically says double the next attack. This is another one of. You don't always run this card. Still no shared sellers, so we're still paying a lot for shipping. Okay, that's kind of it for non-attacks, I feel like. Then we can go ahead and look at normal attacks. The next card we're going to talk about is just an additive to the deck. I feel like it adds some value. It's not in the deck right now. It might not even be super required, but it's called Clash of Might. It's like Clash of Agility, okay? When it defends, you clash. That's where you and your opponent both reveal the top of your deck, and whoever has the highest attack power wins that clash. You create a Might token. It's not incredible, but it's some value, and I feel like it belongs in some decks. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this next card. I think this one should be relatively... Ooh, that one's a little expensive. We're going to save that one for later. It's another Command and Conquer alternative. That's why it's probably very expensive. Also, it's from a set that nobody opened a whole lot of. So we'll just get the... Let me check the deck real quick. There's yellow Bear Fangs, but we need yellow Wild Rides. Okay, those are dirt cheap. And now we can start combining shipping and save even more money. We'll do the 3 Wild Rides. After the Wild Rides, let's take a look here. I'm going to say we can include this one in the intermediate only because of the white border. Let's take a peek. Oh, and it's also filtering for sellers and carts. Let's go ahead and take that away and go back and see if it's any cheaper. Yeah, okay. So the black border one's actually cheaper for some reason. I don't mind lightly played cards, and if I'm a new player, I don't think I do either. But obviously, if you want near mint cards, this is still just $10.99 plus $2 shipping. Okay, and this is kind of hitting a similar path that we're seeing right here. We'll take a look at Agile Wind Up Yellow. Of course, we're going to pick these up. They're 5 cents or whatever. Can we combine shipping on this one? Yes, we can for 15 cents. Done. Okay. After that, I would say we could take a look at some equipment pieces and see if there's any upgrades. That's kind of high. That's better. So there's a headpiece we can replace the knuckle, I can't even, the knuckle head with. Near mint, rainbow foil. Let's go with the one with 100% when they're that low of sales. Okay, even lower sales, but 100% is better than not that many sales with already sinking, right? Could be just an indicator. We'll just say 37. So we're going to stop right there. Okay. So you have just spent a month of your life learning how to play KO. You seem to like the brute playstyle. You seem to like KO Armed and Dangerous at the very least. You say, hey, how do I improve my game? Well, this is it. You get some Agile Windups, some Clash of Mights, Wild Ride Yellows, Savage Feasts, a single Reckless Swing, a single Tear Limb from Limb, some Beast Withins, some Blood Rush Bellows, and a Scowling Flesh Bag. Now you are 96.84 in. Obviously, you could optimize your cart if you want to go for lightly played stuff or things that are a little bit cheaper. If you can find better optimization for your shipping, you could even drive this price down a little bit further low. Or if you've been opening packs and you can trade for some of these cards, even better. Okay, so you're roughly at about $150. I'm just gonna round up to nice and easy, clean numbers. You're at $150 for a deck that I think could win Armories 100%. You can show up with this deck and absolutely start stomping people down. Blood Rush Bellow turns can keep you very high up in value across the turns. Scowling Fleshbag can absolutely shit on somebody's whole plan in 2 seconds. Now let's continue forward. This is the end of the video here. Gets pretty fast paced. So at this point in time with these upgrades that we've gone over, you're at $40 spent on the deck, $100 spent on some upgrades. You're at $140, $150. And now you want to make your deck competitive. You are 3 to 4 months into this game. You've had some time to save up a bit of money because you seemingly like the Brute class. You've been opening packs for trade capability, right? You're into the game. Okay, let's see what that costs. I already know what card is going to cost a lot. We're just going to get right to it. Swing Bigs. These are huge. And if you paid attention to some of the cards in this deck and you understand the context of what you're going into, Swing Big is 2 cost, 3 block, 8 attack. Insane for 2 cost. And then it says, if it doesn't hit, the defending hero creates a quicken token when the combat chain closes. With a Blood Rush Bellows turn, this is 10. 2 resources for 10 damage. You drew some cards, you have Go Again, you have all kinds of things enabled. It's just huge. It's just a huge card. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this one. It's expensive. That's the one we avoided earlier. But we're just gonna go with it. He's got shipping included, so we're just gonna go with it. We got Swing Bigs. We already included the Beast Withins. We would look at Send Packing. And again, we're just looking for somebody with a play set. Of which apparently nobody does, except for heavily played play sets somehow. So we'll just have to do it the old-fashioned way. Again, we're just going with cheapest, and this dude is selling the rainbow foils for cheap, so we're just going to pick up 2 of those and 1 of those. We're just trying to get into the game. I'm not worried about anything other than price. So that's 3 Send Packings. Then we look at the gloves. It's another $40. Pretty expensive at this point, but you know. And then we look at the boots. Actually insanely cheap. Love it. We're going to go ahead and keep the Savage Sash as our chest piece. It's just too good to pass up. There's no reason to do anything other than that. And this is probably what I would call pretty complete. We can take a look at a few other cards. I again think this is more than complete, but we can take a look at a few other cards because brutes can utilize generic cards too, and you might want them. Let's take a peek. In the current meta, this card, Weakest Link, is quite good. $42 is a bit high. I think people are still opening Mistveil. I think this card might drop down a little bit, but it is a very good card. You could think about it. It's a bit high. I don't have them in my decks, and I've been beating Enigmas and things just fine. Uzuri is probably driving the price of this pretty high, to be honest with you. Let's take a look at... I just stroked out there. So this actually fits right into the brute plan for Kayo specifically. But more importantly, it's a generic card you can add to your collection that can be used across multiple heroes. This is a pretty staple card and it has seen a lot of play, and I don't see it going anywhere soon. So we'll just, the Lorcana shop's going to go ahead and sell us 3 of those. Has 5 attacks, so KO pumps it to 6. 3 block, 0 cost, has multiple abilities. You can give it Go Again. I think it's very good. There's nothing wrong with playing this card at all. We're just going to look at the card everybody's thinking about. Yeah. I think with the Weakest Link thing also, this is probably out of your reach for the most part. And until you really, if you're like 6 months, 8 months, getting into a year into this game, you're far enough in that the game has given you enough value that you can go ahead and probably spring for some kind of Command and Conquers. It sounds like you really enjoy the game, but at the 3 to 6 month phase that I'm talking about, where you want your deck to really feel like a really tuned deck, this is it. So let's take a look. There's your Scabskin Leathers, your Swing Bigs, your Send Packings, right? All the stuff we purchased beforehand. Then we keep going down to the Enlightened Strikes, Apex Bonebreaker. You got your legendary equipment. You're all set to go. I believe this deck is more than functional. Okay, if you spend enough time on KO, I've seen decks lesser than this do better. Now, for shits and giggles, we're gonna take a peek. Tournament decks, classic constructed, KO Armed and Dangerous. Indonesia National Champion first place, June 25th. Let's just look at the very top decks. And then here's some really recent ones. August 18th, July 22nd. Okay, we'll just take a look at those, see what's going on. $780, still not $1,000. And I can guarantee you it's because this deck probably has Command and Conquers. There they are, just right off the bat. You could also think about Amnesia, right? As your collection grows, you can think about some of these generic 5 and 6 power cards. I think Enlightened Strike fits the best for a beginner 3 to 6 months into the game. Remember, the portions of this video are just starting, you buy the Armory deck. Then you buy that $100 worth of upgrades and you spent $140, right, after shipping. So you spent $140. The game has given you a month to 2 months of fun. You love it. Your friends are loving it. You like KO and you're developing as a player. 3 to 6 months in, that's when you start looking at this list right here with $381 showing up. And mind you, that's not cumulative, right? We're accounting for everything altogether. So this is 381 plus the 40 for the deck. You're at 420, blaze it. Okay. Insanely cheap for a totally functional deck that totally can compete. No questions asked. If the Armory decks can compete out of the box sometimes with a little bit of luck, this much tuning puts your matches much tighter. Much more competitive, okay? So let's take a look at these. The weakest links are in there. The Command and Conquers are in there. That's what drove it up to $700. And that's it. That's literally it. If at some point in time you want those Command and Conquers, great, fantastic. If not, you can use those Wreak Havocs and the Send Packings and the Strength Rules Alls. You can use your alternatives. It's fine. Also, if you want to pick up these like Null Rune pieces, they're like $1 or something like that. They're not expensive. I don't like Cast Bones. These guys seem to really like it. They might be better players than me with KO. Let's take a look. Okay, they're $4 each. If you really want them, go for it. Right, they're it's $12. If way down the line you have an extra $12, fuck it, pick up that card. Massacres, I think, are in the same boat. They're not very expensive, but they're cool. This one, Command and Conquer's weakest links. That's kind of it. So I wasn't too far off with my build. Looks like some of these guys are playing beaten trackers though, which is awesome. So it looks like if you even want to just stick with your base boots, you would save $30 in the leathers. I don't know how viable that is. I don't play KO. Right. But I know that I would not be cool with playing against that KO version if I were on Prism or if I want anyone else, any of the other illusionists. If I'm too slow of a deck like Fire or something like that, which is crazy to say nowadays. But the point is, there we go. That's it. That's your game. Okay. Start the game at $40. Upgrade for another 100. You've spent 140. And then it looks like, what is that? $280 more later. Say 6 months down the line, you just put away $40 per paycheck. Okay. You have yourself I wouldn't call it hyper competitive, but a competitive Armory deck from scratch. None of the crazy cards are in there. A few E-strikes, which are generic, and that helps build your collection, which you can then implement in the other decks that I'll be talking about as well. Insane. So, yes, that other video said, oh my god, you can only spend $1,000 to win this game. Well, that wasn't even true with the totally built version of this deck. It was like, well, it might have been 780, which is getting up there, but with my upgrade path, and if you really dedicate and learn how to play this game and really, really understand that you're not going to have a winning streak right off the bat and you're going to have to work for it, this will get you there. This will help you develop as a player. And I just, every one of these is just about saying, hey, new players, don't be afraid, get in this game, get your friends into this game and really, really learn. Okay. It's a blast to play. It's super rewarding when you start picking up those wins. And when you start picking up wins with your Armory deck, just here and there, say you're going like 1-3, 1-5, something like that. It sucks, but you pick up the win and you start to understand that rush. Okay. You spend that extra $100, over the next 2-3 checks, you set aside $30 per check. And then you pick up that $100 upgrades, it will make a world of difference. It will change the whole way you view this deck. Those upgrades that I set up for you, those cheaper cards, the Agile Windups, Clash of Mights, Wild Ride Yellows, Savage Feasts, that stuff, quality of life goes through the roof. And then you start tuning your deck to a little bit more straight raw damage output with the Apex Bone Breakers, the Enlightened Strikes, what the hell are they? The Swing Bigs, right? That starts to really add to the experience. Oh, Blood Rush Bellows also. Okay. That's KO. That's Armory deck KO. That's your upgrade path in less than $450. And then obviously, as you saw with those first place winning decks. The difference was Command and Conquers, which again, that's a year in. That's months and months in. Or if you go crazy and you really love this game and you know you love this game, fuck it, buy those cards. Guys, thanks so much for watching Crash Command Games Deck Head BD, we'll call these. Good luck, have fun. This one is zeroed.